In a major victory for law enforcement, authorities have seized a staggering $9.2 million in cash. This is the largest drug bust in the city's history. Let's discuss the recent $9.2 million bust in Houston. How significant is this seizure?
This goes directly to the heart of the cartel's logistics.
This warehouse district is where the historic $9.2 million cash seizure took place. The investigation is ongoing into who is responsible.
22 a.m., Houston, Texas. To the early shift workers threading through the pre-dawn darkness of the city's sprawling industrial corridors, it looked like any other Monday. The air hung thick with Gulf humidity. Traffic lights blinked yellow at empty intersections. A population of 2.3 million slept, unaware. But at 4:22 a.m., the silence was shattered. Federal agents from the FBI, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and the Drug Enforcement Administration descended on 7 locations simultaneously across Harris County. This wasn't a routine bust. This was a coordinated strike, 18 months in the making. The first breach revealed $2.4 million in cash, stacked inside a commercial freezer. The target was a 47-year-old logistics broker who'd spent a decade moving cartel product through legitimate shipping lanes while living in a gated community 20 minutes from downtown. If you believe that cartel operatives using American infrastructure to poison communities deserves maximum federal prosecution, hit the like button and comment justice below. The breaching hammer slammed. Metal buckled. Federal agents, move, move. Flashlights cut through darkness in the warehouse at 8900 Navigation Boulevard. Boots hit concrete. Tactical entry teams swept left and right. The smell hit them first. Industrial chemicals. Cleaning solvents. The sharp tang of plastic wrap. Dust floated in the beam paths. They expected shipping pallets, inventory logs, maybe falsified manifests. Instead, they found a double-walled storage unit with ventilation holes drilled at precisely measured intervals. Behind the false panel, 41 kilograms of fentanyl-laced methamphetamine sealed in vacuum-packed bricks. Each brick bore a stamped insignia, a scorpion, the signature of the Sinaloa cartel's Houston distribution cell. On a metal desk in the adjacent office, investigators found $873,000 in banded cash, an encrypted Samsung device still warm to the touch, and a handwritten ledger documenting shipments dating back to January 2023. This wasn't just drug possession. It was a systematically concealed distribution network run by a licensed freight forwarder with direct access to the Port of Houston. Federal agents discovered something else that morning. In a locked safe inside the warehouse manager's office, copies of legitimate shipping contracts with 17 major retailers, invoices for automotive parts, electronics, apparel. But forensic accountants would later confirm that between March 2023 and November 2024, 32 of those shipments never contained the products listed on their bills of lading. They contained narcotics. The investigation revealed that cartel operatives had identified a vulnerability in cross-border logistics verification. Legitimate businesses were being used as cover. Serial numbers on shipping containers matched federal import databases perfectly, but the containers themselves had been compromised at staging facilities in Nuevo Laredo before crossing into Laredo, Texas. From there, product moved through I-10 corridors into Houston distribution hubs. Analysts flagged more than $18 million in suspicious wire transfers across 11 shell companies registered in Delaware, Nevada, and Wyoming over a 24-month period. But that wasn't all. Investigators found evidence of a secondary network. While the drugs moved east, bulk cash moved west. At a second location raided simultaneously, a nondescript storage facility in Pasadena, Texas, agents seized $6.8 million in vacuum-sealed currency, hidden inside hollowed-out pallets marked as industrial machinery parts. The cash bore the chemical signatures of fentanyl and cocaine. Intelligence confirmed this was return payment headed back to cartel finance operatives in Mexico. The system was circular. Drugs came north through legitimate freight channels. Money went south through the same channels. And every transaction was camouflaged by the sheer volume of legal commerce flowing through one of America's busiest port cities. Over 31 months, the network had moved an estimated $47 million in narcotics through Houston alone. Federal auditors identified 19 shell companies created solely to generate fake invoices. Investigators confirmed at least 63 fraudulent transactions involving falsified customs declarations. The operation had tendrils reaching into San Antonio, Dallas, and as far east as Baton Rouge. But the most disturbing discovery was still to come. Among the suspects detained that morning, there were faces that didn't belong. Miguel Angel Soto, 47 years old, the primary target, was a licensed customs broker with a spotless record. To the public, Soto was a respected logistics professional. He'd spoken at industry conferences. He sponsored youth soccer leagues in Katy, Texas. His LinkedIn profile showed a man committed to streamlining international trade and supporting local businesses. But intelligence revealed a different truth. Soto had been recruited by Sinaloa operatives in 2021 after financial pressures from a failed business venture left him vulnerable. Records showed he received $340,000 in consulting fees from a Guadalajara-based firm with no legitimate operations. He used his industry credentials to bypass inspections. He coached cartel couriers on how to answer customs and border protection questions. He provided real-time updates on federal enforcement patterns using encrypted messaging apps. The people sworn to facilitate legal commerce had become the architects of its exploitation. But Soto wasn't alone. Federal indictments unsealed in December 2024 named 12 co-conspirators. Among them, 2 warehouse supervisors at separate logistics firms, a freight dispatcher with access to scheduling systems, and a compliance officer who had the authority to override flag shipments. It wasn't just one corrupt individual. It was a system designed to be exploited from within. Permits that should have required multi-level approval were waved through. Audits that should have flagged discrepancies were delayed or ignored. Inspections that should have occurred never happened. The betrayal ran deeper than any single operator. It was institutional rot masked by the mundane machinery of commerce. We are tracking the federal prosecution of all 12 defendants. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss updates on trial dates and sentencing outcomes. What began as a single tip to the FBI's Houston field office in April 2023 became Operation Scorpion Gate. Over the next 18 months, more than 240 federal agents mobilized across Texas, Louisiana, and northern Mexico in coordination with Mexican federal police. The scope expanded. Surveillance teams tracked vehicles. Undercover operatives infiltrated distribution cells. Financial crimes analysts traced cryptocurrency wallets linked to cartel payment structures. At exactly 4:22 a.m., on that November morning, teams struck 7 locations simultaneously. 3 warehouses, 2 private residences, 1 storage facility, 1 freight office. Helicopters lifted off from staging points. Armored vehicles blocked exit routes. Body camera footage later released showed agents moving with synchronized precision through dimly lit corridors, service bays, and cargo zones. At the primary warehouse, the raid lasted 9 minutes. No shots were fired. Soto was detained without resistance in the office, where he'd been reviewing manifests for the morning's outbound shipments. The encrypted phone was seized before he could trigger its remote wipe function. 18 suspects were detained in total that morning. Categories included 6 logistics coordinators, 4 warehouse operators, 3 drivers, 2 compliance officers, 2 armed security personnel contracted to protect high-value loads, and 1 accountant responsible for layering cartel funds through legitimate business accounts. Among the high-value targets, Rodrigo Fuentes, 52, a freight dispatcher who'd worked in the industry for 19 years before being recruited in 2022. Fuentes had access to shipping schedules for 6 different firms. He coordinated timing to ensure cartel loads moved during shifts with the least scrutiny. Also arrested, Carmen Ruiz, 39, a warehouse supervisor who allowed after-hours access to storage bays where product was repackaged into legitimate shipment containers. Ruiz received $12,000 per successful load. Over 16 months, she facilitated at least 27 shipments. Intelligence confirmed she used the money to pay off medical debt and support her aging parents. A reminder that cartel recruitment often exploits desperation, not just greed. The financial impact was staggering. Federal prosecutors moved to freeze $9.2 million in assets tied to the network. 17 bank accounts were seized. 11 shell companies collapsed overnight when their registration agents were served with federal subpoenas. The reach extended beyond U.S. borders. Investigators identified cartel-linked accounts in the Cayman Islands, Panama, and Belize. International cooperation led to the freezing of an additional $4.6 million in offshore holdings. The Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network flagged 143 suspicious activity reports linked to entities in Soto's network. Reports that had been filed, but never escalated, due to the sheer volume of legitimate trade data flowing through the system. But the reckoning wasn't just financial, it was institutional. The Port of Houston Authority initiated immediate audits of all licensed customs brokers operating within its jurisdiction. New verification protocols were implemented requiring multi-agency sign-off on high-risk cargo categories. The Department of Homeland Security launched reviews of similar vulnerabilities at ports in Los Angeles, Savannah, and Newark. Operation Scorpion Gate became a blueprint. Federal agencies identified at least 9 other logistics-based smuggling networks operating in border states. By January 2025, coordinated raids in Arizona, California, and New Mexico dismantled 4 additional cells using nearly identical methods. This was never about 41 kilos. It was about the human cost. Federal investigators linked the Houston network to at least 62 overdose deaths across Texas and Louisiana between 2023 and 2024. The fentanyl seized that morning was enough to produce 25 million lethal doses, enough to kill every resident of the New York metropolitan area. Families lost sons, daughters, parents. The drugs didn't discriminate. They moved through high school parking lots and corporate offices with the same ruthless efficiency they moved through port terminals. We are tracking every update in the federal prosecution. Subscribe and turn on notifications to stay informed as defendants face trial and victims' families seek justice. A week after the raids, the Port of Houston looked different. Security checkpoints had doubled. Cargo inspections slowed. Trucks idled in longer lines. Warehouse managers walked federal auditors through their facilities, answering questions about access logs and shipment verification procedures. Yellow police tape still marked the warehouse on Navigation Boulevard. The community surrounding it, a mix of industrial workers, immigrant families, and longtime residents, spoke carefully. One warehouse worker, who asked not to be named, told local reporters, "We knew something was wrong. You could feel it. But who do you tell when the people running it look legitimate?" The silence proved a larger truth. Corruption thrives not in obvious criminality, but in the shadows of legitimacy. It wears badges. It carries credentials. It exploits the trust people place in institutions designed to protect them. Doors that had been locked only at night now stayed locked during the day. Workers reported suspicious activity more frequently. The Port of Houston Authority launched a confidential tip line. In the first 3 weeks, it received over 200 reports, most false alarms, but 11 leading to secondary investigations. Trust, once broken, takes years to rebuild. But the process had begun. This wasn't just about Miguel Angel Soto. It wasn't just about cartel drugs moving through American ports. It was about something older and more fundamental. Democracy doesn't fail loudly. It fails quietly, in the unchecked spaces where oversight grows lax and accountability fades. Evil only requires that good people do nothing. And for 31 months, the system had allowed a logistics broker with a clean record and a friendly smile to poison communities, while hiding behind the legitimacy of American commerce. But in that darkness, federal agents stood up. Prosecutors built cases. Intelligence analysts worked 18-hour shifts, connecting financial dots across continents. The system, flawed as it was, proved strong enough to police its own. Justice was delivered not because institutions are perfect, but because enough people within them refused to look away. Freedom isn't preserved by promises. It's preserved by vigilance. By the night shift worker who notices something wrong. By the analyst who flags the transaction that doesn't add up. By the agent who spends months building a case most people will never hear about. Miguel Angel Soto is currently awaiting trial in federal custody. He faces charges including conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, money laundering, and operating a continuing criminal enterprise. If convicted on all counts, he faces a mandatory minimum of 20 years and a maximum of life in federal prison. 11 co-defendants have entered plea agreements. One is cooperating with federal prosecutors in exchange for reduced sentencing. The trial is scheduled for June 2026. Do you believe that individuals who exploit their positions of trust to traffic cartel drugs should face the maximum penalty under federal law? Yes or no? Comment below. Stay vigilant.